This video is to help you with reviewing, multiplying, and dividing of decimals and fractions. So before we move any further in this video, I do want to make sure that you know the rules for multiplying and dividing when it comes to negative numbers. So if you have a positive multiplied or divided by a positive, your answer is going to be positive. If you have a negative multiplied or divided by a negative, your answer is going to be positive. And if either one of your signs are a negative, your answer will be a negative. So basically, if both of the signs are the same, you end up with a positive answer. If both of the signs are different, you end up with a negative answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at number one. I want you to follow along with me, copy down the odd example problems, and then you will do the even problems on your own before you're allowed to retest. So you have to have both done. You have to have the odds copied down, the examples, and then you also need to do the evens. So 6.9 times negative 3.2. A positive times a negative is going to give us a negative answer. And then to do 6.9 times 3.2, when you multiply decimals, you don't have to line up the decimal. They happen to line up in this case. So 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. Add a 0. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 2 is 20. So we end up with 2208. Now the trickiest part about this is realizing that because there are two numbers to the right of the decimal in the problem, there has to be two numbers to the right of the decimal in the answer. So our decimal goes right here. So our final answer is a negative 22.08. Okay. Number 3, negative 3.4 times 1.9. A negative times a negative is going to leave us with a positive answer. So we're going to do 3.4 times 1.9. When we're multiplying, we don't really have to pay attention to the decimals. So 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 3 is 30. Add a 0. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 3 is 3. So this would give us 6, 4, 6. And because there are two numbers to the right of the decimal in our problem, there has to be two numbers to the right of the decimal in our answer. So our decimal would go right here. Okay, let's look at number 5. On number 5, we have a 9.2 times by 9. Okay, notice how I didn't line up the decimals here. A 9 would be written as 9 point, basically. And so we don't line up the decimals. And now we're just going to multiply. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 9 is 81, plus 1 is 82. And in this case, there is only one number to the right of the decimal in our problem. So there just needs to be one number to the right of the decimal in our answer. And then a negative times a negative ends up being a positive. So positive 82.8. Okay. The next one is a division problem. 7.8 divided by a negative 3. So a positive divided by a negative is going to give us a negative answer. We have to put the 7.8 in the box, and it's getting divided by the 3. Now when we divide decimals, this decimal is just going to go straight up, and then we just divide as if it's not there. So 3 goes into 7 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down the 8. 3 goes into 18 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 minus 18 is a 0. Now, a positive number divided by a negative number is going to give us a negative answer. So our final answer is a negative 2.6. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. Negative 3.58 divided by 0.1. So we're going to put the 3.58 in the box, divided by 0.1, and we can't divide by a decimal number, which means we're going to have to move this decimal one place to the right, and then we also have to move this one place to the right, and then the decimal just goes straight up. Now from there, we don't have to worry about the decimal anymore. We just divide. So Sorry, this decimal moved here. So 1 goes into 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. Bring down the 5. 1 goes into 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. Bring down the 8. 1 goes into 8. 8 times. So 35.8. And a negative divided by a positive gives us a negative answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at multiplying of fractions. Multiplying of fractions is, I think, one of the easiest fraction operations to do. When you multiply fractions, you don't have to have a common denominator. To make the negative to a fraction, you just put it over 1. And then when you multiply fractions, you just do top times top over bottom times bottom. So negative 2 times 1 is a negative 2. And then we have 1 times 5, which is 5. So our answer is negative 2/5. Okay, let's look at number 13. On number 13, we have a negative times a positive, so we know our answer is going to be a negative. The very first thing that we do is we change both of these improper fraction or mixed numbers to improper fractions. So we do 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13/4, negative. And then we have 10 times 1 is 10. 10 plus 3 is 13/10. And we're multiplying these. And then we just do top times top over bottom times bottom. 4 times 10 is 40. And then 13 times 13 is 169. And a negative times a positive is a negative. That's our answer. Okay, number 15. First thing that we do is we change this mixed number to an improper fraction by doing 8 times 3, and then we add the 1. So that would be 24 plus 1 is 25/8. We're multiplying that by a negative 2, which we put over 1 to make it a fraction. A positive times a negative is a negative answer. 25 times 2 is 50. 8 times 1 is 8. And in this case, 2 divides into both of these. 2 goes into 50 25 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Okay, and then the last two are dividing fractions. Dividing fractions is pretty much the same as multiplying fractions, except for when you divide fractions, you first have to flip the second fraction. Okay, so negative 1 over 4 divided by 6 over 5 becomes negative 1 over 4 times by 5 over 6. And now we just do top times top over bottom times bottom. Voila, that's our answer. Okay, number 19. Our first step is to change both of these to improper fractions by doing 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. And because we're dividing, we're going to flip the second one over. And now we just multiply. 18 times 4 is 72. And 17 times 7 is 119. Okay, so at this point, I need you to finish the even problems. You're going to do all of the evens on your own. I will correct those, and then you can do your retest on this topic.